Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
I take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island. Best believe the list will be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters. Friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for. We stand for. Oh, I need this song. Look at how we've grown, how far we've gone. 50 years we're strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. I'm going higher. 50 years we're blessed with motion fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 and more. Going up, going up, going up, 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 higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up ourselves, put people together. Bang, bang, bang.
Welcome to Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy. For too long now, our generally perceived poorly educated electorate have fallen victim to the cheap and inferior propaganda of those seeking to hold others captive under the guise of democracy. Gladly, the CDGG uses edification to help to actively pursue a sustainable approach to reorient our people towards the importance of electing and selecting people of good character to public life. Through edification, we will highlight the importance of education appropriate to our development, proper healthcare and facilities as our right, respect for law and order, not to mention upgrading our people's thinking so they could become qualified participants in the democratic process to their advantage. After all, Grenada's national constitution makes allowances for the ideal of free men to enjoy freedom from fear and want, which can be best achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone may enjoy his economic, social and political, civil and cultural rights.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. Hiring the right people with the right attitude and mindset is where to start. Even if you did not get it right through your current hiring methods, we can help develop the right mindset for your current employees. If you think training is expensive, try not training and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.eddiefrederick.com.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all. Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation.
it seems like today that shift has created a little bit of a, a technical snarl for me, but we'll take it in strides. We'll do what we can. They say, if anybody gives you lemons, you try to make juice with it as much as possible. You know, so we will see how we end up today. But of course, because of commitment, I am committed to doing this. I shall be proceeding anyway. So, of course, welcome, welcome, welcome. It is God's will that every generation comes to life is better than the generation they met before. And I'm sure you understand and appreciate this very, very much. Because the truth is, in truth and in fact, you know, we are supposed to add value, not subtract. We're supposed to add. Folks, if any one of you having problems, you know, tuning into this live on Facebook, you can switch over to YouTube, you know, because we seem to be having a little bit of a, you know, a snarl here. But be that as it may, we will still proceed. We will proceed. You know, we'll take that off, right? So, no distractions, and we say no sticking at all. I just have a little something that I must do here before we actually proceed with this. Just give me one quick little second here, and we'll take it from there. Just give me one quick second. Come on. One quick second. And, you know, it's quite interesting. They say when you must have heard of Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong at the worst possible moment. And it seems like that's what we're having here today. But as I said, nothing is going to stop the show. You know, we are going to, that's quite interesting. Yeah, well, I'll get back to that comment in a little bit about liking my goatee, my new look, so to speak. Because in truth and in fact, I'm trying a thing. You know. I think it is important sometimes for us to try different things and be a little bit adventurous. Apart from that, I also want to apologize for even the promotion of the program because I mislabeled it 208th edition. I came back, I also misdated it because for some reason I didn't even remember this was a leap year. So I started March 1st when it was still February 29th. So I ended up in that kind of little mental tailspin, so to speak, and you know, threw myself off. But whatever it is, this is what it is. Welcome to Edification 207 for today, Saturday 2nd. That's right, March 2024, a historic month for our history-making state. Come on, folks, share the live, tag your friends. Topic for today's discourse: the younger generation needs to be careful what they learn from the older generation. Folks, our older generation seems to be so stuck in time that they resist change, and they resist change vehemently. Young people, don't get stuck, and don't let them stick you, because you have your life to live. They lived theirs already. Folks, keep the comments coming, you know, for whichever platform you can comment on. And as I say, if you have any problems with the Facebook, you know, live, go on to YouTube. No sticking. And remember, because we shifted the program from Sunday, which is the normal day for it, and we shifted it to Saturday, we are likely to have less in numbers, or probably even more for that matter. Well, who knows? Whatever. Because remember, so far I know I'm not speaking to myself, and that is a good thing. So the younger generation just have to be careful who they take their cue from, who they take examples from. Good. Our topic today is very, very strong. Folks, it is God's will that every generation that comes to life is better than the generation they met. That is because of the natural tendency for growth to be a factor in life. We are all supposed to move north, never south. Even if we look at the machine that measures heart rate, so to speak, in a patient who is under close observation at an intensive care unit, what will we notice? Peaks and valleys. Peaks and valleys. What does that say? When there is a flat line with beeps, we have an emergency. However, when there is a flat line with absolutely no beeps, we know that life has ended for that person. Life represents peaks and valleys. How many of you realize that the receipt of your paycheck represents the peak in life? And of course, the bills or something unexpected that pops up from nowhere represent the valleys. That produces the flow. And it could be considered the variety that we have grown to call the spice of life. You see, last week I told you, if 40% of our population are dishonest, or to go a step further, are thieves, we are looking at the possibility that when that 40% of our population is spread and distributed among our various professions and people of differing walks of life, we are in for a rude awakening, because 40% of our priests and other so-called people of God will be dishonest and will be thieves. 40% of our teachers, nurses, doctors, lawyers, politicians, and managers, employees too, etc., will be dishonest and thieves too. You see, those 40% don't stand alone and isolated. It is not wrong for us to dream and hope that our younger generation to turn out to be well, to become mature, decent citizens. It's not wrong for us to do that. My question to you is, what are we who are before them doing to contribute to this happening? How could we be so destructive in our thinking and practices and expect them to turn out any different from us? Look at some of us. Stop blaming our younger ones. They learned from the best. And whatever many of us do bad, they are just doing better at it, because they learned from us. Many of us are the worst examples we can find. Many of us need to be protected from ourselves because of how we think and what we say and do. I have gone through phases of hope and then came to the conclusion, hoping is really and truly not a process indeed. All factors taken into consideration, the younger generation could very well be even more dangerous than their adult parents and their contemporaries. Everything they practice today came from somewhere. They have seen the older generation model bad manners, confusion and rancor, mawet and other forms of hypocrisy, stealing to get ahead, going to work and not doing anything constructive, and coming home every month with a paycheck, being rude and lascivious, promiscuous, incompetent, incapacitated, and lacking in constructive abilities. And the list can go on regarding the undesirable traits that we see in our mature adults as a matter of course. What can we expect from our younger generation? We have to pray and trust that not all of our younger generation would follow this lead. And instead, our civilization could be redeemed along the way by those who are prepared to walk the straight and narrow. Look at the poor examples we are seeing in our local politics. In fact, the main act has been on stage now for umpteen years and shown no sign of letting go. Is that any example for any member of our younger generation to follow? Come on, folks, share the life, share the life. Tag your friends, share the life. Now, do you know how many of our younger generation waiting for their opportunities to be thieves, just like the many of the older generations?
that they were and met teeth in, so to speak, just to get ahead? I am sure as day, if we do a survey, proper survey among our nation's youth, we would discover by surprise or even shock, a large percentage of them feel nothing is wrong with dishonesty, nothing is wrong with teeth in, nothing is wrong with corruption. Who gave them this confidence? Degenerates like the old nastiness, of course, whom they see get away with total corruption from all of 1995 to 2022, for the most part, and out and about today running amok, terrorizing the new administration without being held accountable for all the misdeeds that cost this nation tens and even hundreds of millions of dollars, with absolutely nothing to show for it by way of national benefits. The only thing a lot of you younger generation may feel is wrong is to be arrested for corruption. And the only thing they must do, they feel, is to avoid being arrested. Otherwise, there's nothing wrong with corruption. Because a lot of us these days, you know, folks, we subscribe to what we call the 11th commandment, thou shalt not get caught. Isn't that interesting? You see, this is something Professor Patrick Lumumba spoke loudly of in respect of African youth today, which is so apropos for our neck of the woods here in the Caribbean, and Grenada in particular. It stands to reason that many of our younger generation would love to find themselves some opportunities where they can steal too. We don't have to look too far to draw that conclusion. Just pay attention, listen to how they speak. They consider an old thief as smart just because he or she has not been arrested and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. They look on and see such degenerates, spoils, and consider them to have done well, and even consider that as symbols of success. So you see, to them, there is no difference between smart and dishonest. We have some people who condemn corruption, not because they hate it, you know, but rather because there is no opportunity for them to be corrupt themselves. Because it's the benefit they're looking at. They're looking at what they're missing out on, especially when they see people before them are not prosecuted. You see, I intend to continue to sound the alarm about thieving, thieves, nastinesses of our society, especially that old nastiness, as long as I live. Whether it is for 2 more minutes, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 years, 20 years. The rest of my life will be spent to push back that old nastiness in his nasty, stinking hole, to use a Herbert Blair's coinage. You see, there are some of you house slaves who would love me to be politically correct. But I will ask you like Louis Farrakhan asked some of the American whites who had a problem with his stridency. Quote, how the hell you want me to be politically correct when you are blind, deaf, and dumb and want to destroy me as your enemies? Folks, be a man, be a woman, speak the truth, and then die on that truth if it comes to that. Stand up for something, unquote. I thank God daily for the indomitable spirit he gave me to be able to stand up and say whatever I have on my mind. I thank God daily for the bravery to not have a shred of hypocrisy in my bones, that I could not be bothered to say what needs to be said, regardless of whom it offends. You see, so whatever is said about me, in whatever forum or wherever, I don't have a care, because I live at me. I pay my own bills. when I last checked. You see, as long as it is not God or the extremely few people I care for and respect that will reciprocate genuinely, that is, you only wasted your energy and your sound. You see, folks, that is why hot food does burn among your mouth, because you have no more breath left to cool it. Save your breath to cool your broth, and don't necessarily bother about me. How many people you know who have that kind of courage? Many times when we're learning, we have to walk alone. I know that. When the old nastiness had his old foot on top my neck, jamming and grinding me as if to death, where the hell were you who want to come and tell me nonsense today, enjoying your spoils from the old corrupt teeth you were benefiting from? You were mistaking those so-called gifts you were receiving as genuine, not realizing that you were totally bought and paid for, and you end up being sold to the devil himself, to the point where up to this day you find it hard to divorce yourself from the spell. You see, talking about this, a man met me recently and approached me to ask me how I could be referring to the old nastiness in that way. Of course, he called him by name, but I don't have no time for that old idiot for me to call him by his name. The old nastiness, that is his true name and nature. I simply asked him, how does he refer to him? Of course, he said how. I said, well, if you were paying attention and not totally absorbed by the character traits of that field slave gone wrong, you would be referring to him correctly as I do, that old nastiness. The difference between you and me is that you respect disrespect, and I have not yet learned how to do that. The old nastiness can fool you, but he can't fool me. His correct reference for me and none other is that old nastiness and nothing else. I have been paying attention, and I know he ain't good, and he ain't good long. I would not tell you where I told him to go with a very nice pussy grin on my face of sarcasm. You big, you're bright, and I'm sure you could figure it out. Folks, many of our false jackasses of society that we live among always feel they could offer correction according to the brainwashed colonial indoctrination they received over the years. I have already warned. When you are coming, come good, or don't come at all. I have absolutely no tolerance for falseness and pretense. And because those two are ever present in many of our people, I'm not on the market for friends. Because with friends like those, you don't need enemies, trust me. You see, before any of the blessings I'm enjoying today, due to hard work and a structured and well-ordered life came to me, I was confident. This is something I received from my single-parent mother, who girded her 5 bastard children with knowledge and strength in case we needed to take care of ourselves, which of course we needed to. I am eternally grateful. I always dropped off at my house since going to school, even though we lived back then in not so hello, but that was our reality. That was our reality. So what I lived in, where I lived back then, was not in league with where I live today. But that is a manifestation of growth. We were not the first to stay in a one-room place and have one cooking pot probably, and an old kerosene stove that's smutted up the said pot and the whole damn room every time our mother was cooking? Oh no! Look at me now. Growth has taken place. Growth has taken place. And in the right direction, up. Tiffin does not prop up my current lifestyle. Instead, the art of loving to work and being contented to eat little and live long guide me to maintain my standard of living and quality of life. So far, so good. Hey, just recently, I had to be reminded of a good deed. Imagine I had to be reminded, because you do good deeds, you move on. You move on and you position yourself to continue to do good deeds. So just recently I had to be reminded of a good deed I did for someone at one of our supermarkets, which I never even remembered for myself. The recipient does not even know it was me who did that good deed. And I would not be surprised if you meet her and ask her what she thinks of me, if at all she's familiar with who my public figure is, based on what I do here. She may respond from a poisonous point of view, and all the poison she may have been fed that she drank. Folks, you know what I tell you the other day? Don't drink bush for people fever. You're going to end up with gripe because it is not your fever. Then again, I might be overthinking. You see, one thing I have learned in Grenada is that many times one who is able to analyze and process reaches the stage of overthinking, he or she is on the right path. Because you can take mud and putty and make a lot of Grenadians. First, they're easy to predict. Interestingly, it was one of the cashiers who mentioned it to me in a commendable manner. Wow. This is a manifestation, folks, of evolution and growth. How many of you can see an opportunity and have the faith and trust to obey the command of the Spirit to reach out without measuring and thinking how much less you will have if you shared? How many? How many of you? There are people I know with means, more means than me, who count every penny and who would measure what they give miserly. In fact, such people give off the excess. But see them grab a Bible and hamstring it on a Sunday, they're going to church. Let me go and pray you here. Let me go and praise my God you here. Rubbish. Folks, being able to enjoy my own company has helped me to pray, to fast, and to remain with honor. What I do is not for honor, I do it with honor, selflessly. The retreat center I love call, where I live, has become a place of reading, meditating, building, growing, and glowing. I can feel a movement, and it is not without purpose and structure. That is what focus delivers in return. Folks, when I tell you to focus and avoid the distractions, pay no attention to the distractions. They're there to make sure you stay focused, not to really absorb you, but to teach you how to focus on strength. The distractions are there to discipline you. But you see, a lot of us fall for it because we have no respect and regard for discipline. I happen to know and believe that on the spiritual path, we must be willing to compromise on our lifestyle. You see how I throw away liming and hanging around, shooting the breeze with small talk? Oh, Jesus. I have gone for something more meaningful. It is called peace. Not P-I-E-C-E, P-E-A-C-E. And even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil. The one God of our universe is with me. I'm never willing to compromise my spiritual path to accommodate my lifestyle. It is a law of nature, folks. If you are seeking something, you must be willing to give something in return. Sometimes giving something means your tears, a shout out to someone, or even giving of yourself and of your time. We were all conceived with a beautiful spirit. And sometimes when we come into this world, people external to us cover that beautiful spirit up. And sometimes we ourselves cover that beautiful spirit up. Folks, never mind how much we cover it up. It is there longing to be released. Find peace now, and you will secure your spirit once more. You see, the younger generation needs to be careful who they focus on and what they learn from the older generation. Not many of them are as structured and worth learning anything from. I make absolutely no apology for saying so, because it's the truth. We have big people who pass you straight on the road, and then when they reach somewhere and they're discussing manners and so with young people about young people, how they have no manners. But where they learn that from? They learn that from you that just pass people straight. They're modeling a behavior that they have become accustomed to. Folks, I don't pass people straight, you know. Oh no, I don't care what mood I'm in. Hi man, how are you doing? Hi, hello, hello, hello. And I'm gone. Because it's the right thing to do. And that's how I was brought up. You see, some of you are too poor for examples. Yet for all, you want to criticize young people for who your unacceptable behavior throughout our society influence them to be. First, let's take a little break, and we will come right back with some more.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and/or affiliates of this program.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the country cold store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in the same hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
If I take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island, best believe my list go like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters, friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for, stand for.
Oh, I am in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. I'm going higher. 50 years we're blessed with motion fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 going up, going up, going up, 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 ever higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up the dance for people together. Bang, bang, bang. It's only up.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, 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 folks. Wonderful. We have a lot to discuss here today. So welcome back. And for those of you just joining, I want to thank you for joining. And remember to continue to share long after this program is finished today. So welcome back. Isn't it wasteful to just exist, folks? Look, this morning we woke up to some very, very sad news. Harris Cummings, who just was here for independence, passed on. It's so sad. And we behave, the way we behave, a lot of us, is as if we don't have to die. Good. That is why we become so easily forgettable. Because a lot of us are not studying, as we say, we're not studying, we head. So we become easily forgettable. And it is so sad. We're not focused, we're not structured, our life is not well ordered. We leave no legacy behind, there's no memory. All we did was to come and take up the air. Take up the air, all the oxygen. Folks, we have to have purpose in our lives. We have to have a little purpose. Don't you get more value from life when you are connected to a purpose? Of course. Beauty and intelligence without purpose are useless. Just today I saw a lovely, beautiful looking young lady going down a particular road where, of course, a certain level of Grenadians live. And you could see based on her gait, her attire, you could see that she never invested beyond her good looks. Based on how she was moving, you could see she's a maid in a kitchen somewhere. Because you see, a lot of us feel the looks will take us there, but as soon as we open our mouth, hey! You know, it's like you knock a door because you saw a light on, but you heard no response because the light is on, but nobody is home. And you could live your life without developing yourself to cash in on that lovely packaging. Because the lovely packaging is a gift that God has given you, but He's also given you a choice. And you chose to take the easy path where you have to become a domestic help, working for minimum wage to match the minimum brain that you have. Come on, folks, we could do better than that. We can do better than that because we are worth much more than that. It is God's will for us to develop, man. It is God's will for us to grow through life and not just go through life. Too many of us amble through life and we're okay with that. Let me go down the road and see what that fella there give me. Hello? And suppose he can't give you nothing other than trouble or another child. He's not stand up with you to help take care of. Come on, folks. We could do better than that. You see, anything that God gives you cannot be considered a true and genuine blessing until you connect it to purpose. Get up today and go out with purpose, man. That is why I invite you to leave your home with your best selves and not your whole selves. There are too many parts of that whole self that are undesirable and absolutely unsuitable as a reflection of you to the outside world. That is why a lot of you are stunted and you are not growing because you are enemies of yourselves. You see, in my spiritual deliberations, I discovered a Nigerian pastor, Joshua Selman. Folks, go look for this man. He's awesome. Very interesting preacher and teacher indeed. I had my doubts at first when one of the videos came across my path. Interestingly, because he referred to himself as apostle, I kind of get turned off on prophet and apostle and all them kind of prefix names. I was a little hesitant. The video was short, and so I said to myself, I have nothing to lose, so let me view it. Folks, I found absolutely nothing to oppose in terms of his logic, energy, and the frequency he delivered in. Woo, that man is on fire. In fact, I find him to be hot. He is burning. He mixes the secular and uses them as example and parallels to scripture, resulting in my following him today. In a sharing, Selman was very vocal on the three groups of people we will find around our lives that will take a lot of wisdom and discretion to deal with them. Failure to be able to deal with them will render you unable to arrive at your place of destiny, according to Selman. The first group, you want to hear the first group? Wicked people. This category of people you may not be able to drive indefinitely from your life. They are entrenched in your neighborhood, around your family, organization, company, committee, and even entrenched in your politics. But we know one, the old nastiness. They may even be determined to be too useful to be thrown away completely, especially when the replacement's not readily available. Doesn't that sound familiar? Folks, let's go to Proverbs 6:12-19. Quote, "Let me describe for you a worthless and wicked man. First, he's a constant liar. He signals his true intentions to his friends with eyes and feet and fingers. He's always thinking up new schemes to swindle people. He stirs up trouble everywhere, but he will be destroyed suddenly, broken beyond hope of healing. For there are 7 things the Lord hates: haughtiness, lying, murdering, plotting evil, eagerness to do wrong, a false witness, sowing discord among brothers." Unquote. In Proverbs 4:14-17, it is also written, "Don't do as the wicked do. Avoid their haunts. Turn away, go somewhere else. For evil men can't sleep until they've done their evil deed for the day. They can't rest unless they cause someone to stumble and fall. They eat and drink wickedness and violence." Unquote. Folks, there are people we know who are just like that among us, starting with the old nastiness, who partners with the devil to be wicked, spewing nastiness and hate and vitriol daily, and then putting on style like the true con man he is, pretending to reach out to help in the same breath of delivering wickedness. He must be shunned and rebuked. A nastiness like that under the revolution would have been incarcerated and forgot about. We out here should bring him to a public square and flog him regularly for his wickedness. There are wicked people in your world around you, in your organizations, companies, and even those buildings many of you regard as churches. There are wicked people in society at large who insist on following that old nastiness. Folks, they're not qualified to be called stupid. They are wicked. We have them in the government service reporting ministers' directives to them, to a member of their brigade, so that failed Drake could scandalize the administration publicly. These wicked people come in different forms among us, and we who consider ourselves believers must learn how to equip ourselves to deal with these wicked sons of guns. They remain in the government service, spending time on the clock, plotting and devising ways to help the old nastiness avoid any licks predestined for him by his main challenger, and who in speaking speak like we. Could you imagine that? When they're speaking to like minds on the phone, on the people's telephone are we paying for, they get carried away while using we in relation to seeing to it that the main challenger and who in speaking to like minds. Isn't that something, folks? Trying to make sure the challenge never succeeds. And this is going on while we taxpayers paying these nastinesses. It is only recently that one in particular learned to read properly after years of abusing people, abusing us. Could you imagine that, folks? With piss poor deliveries via very difficult to stomach appearance. Ever anybody have a difficult beauty? That one has one. Folks, the next group of people, selfish people. Selfish people. They are not necessarily evil people. They are just indifferent about your state, providing they get what they are looking for. The character of selfishness is that it does not mind who is wounded in the process. The most important thing for a selfish person is obtaining their desire. It does not matter who dies or who cries. It does not matter who is in pain. A selfish person does not see anything else but what they desire. They want it so badly that it does not matter who dies and what is destroyed in the process. They will betray family for it. First, they want it bad. They will deprive their matrimonial situation, their matrimonial home, of all they gathered together over the years because they want it so badly. But that is so darn familiar. They will do anything provided it ends with them achieving what they want so badly. That's how selfish they are. Yes, all pigs have their Saturday, man. All pigs have their Saturday. Folks, a selfish person has no business harming you if there is nothing that becomes a point of conflict between both of you. You may even resemble an ally for a while. Don't you know the old nastiness? From allies with strange people, just to have his way. And as soon as he accomplishes, he rebukes them. That's his habit. I tell you, he ain't good. And he ain't good long. He ain't just start or not good. He born not good. He's defective. So, the old nastiness is one such person who can be found everywhere on Ireland, devising ways and means to achieve his goal through deceit and guile. You want to know who the third group of people is? Listen to them. Ignorant and naive people. Folks, they're dangerous, you know. To show lack of consciousness, that's what naive means. Lack of experience, lack of maturity, lack of wisdom, lack of judgment. A naive person is like a notebook that nothing has been written on. That is what makes them dangerous, because they become what is suddenly written there. So they can be manipulated easily. The easiest people to deceive are not the wicked people, because they are the deceivers themselves. Not selfish people either, but naive people. According to religious twang, which loads of you religious junkies know, you know the twang. When Satan wants to destroy anyone, the greatest tool he uses is a wicked person. If he cannot find a wicked person, he will make do with a selfish person. And if he cannot find a selfish person, then he resorts to a naive person. All three can cause the same harm to your life. What's the difference, you may ask? A wicked person, like the old nastiness, does his wickedness from a premeditated standpoint. Both before and after your pain, they're happy. It was their plan. A selfish person, like Judas was described in the Bible, was intent on deriving benefits from Jesus, not with the intention of Jesus dying. Usually when harm is done and what they are looking for, they now have, then they have the conscience to regret by saying they did not want it to go so far. Well, we heard of stories of people beating another to death. And when the person dies and they're arrested and charged, they would say the plan was not to kill the person. Folks, wicked people, selfish people, ignorant or naive people are tools that can become a disaster to your life, except you sustain the wisdom to be able to live with them, because they just don't go away easily. As long as that old nastiness is alive, we will be immersed in the midst of these kinds of people every day. Imagine these types of people who are among Jesus's disciples, so to speak, among the scribes and Pharisees, among his congregation. Jesus Christ incarnate lived among these people. All these three groups of people played their role together to secure the death of Jesus Christ. The naive people who said, "Crucify him, let his blood be upon our heads." The scribes and Pharisees who plotted it intentionally, and Judas who wanted to derive benefits out of Jesus but did not intend to destroy him. Folks, there are many young, naive, uneducated, and underexposed people who are not thieves but are made to steal because of poor examples. They are not bandits, but they are made to become bandits because of poor examples. If only they would pay attention, they would realize that even their parents may very well have been the first poor examples to them, and it was all downhill after that. Folks, let us look at the parallel drawn with all that I have shared so far, and tell me if the following does not fit into the acts from the wicked and selfish, actively conscripting the ignorant and naive. My inside contact advised me that the old nastiness in his last executive told them that the people are calling back for the old NNP. Of course, that means Nasty National Party and his leadership. So Grenadians calling back for nastiness. Could you imagine that? This therefore empowers him to appoint lead and deputy lead in all constituencies and instruct them to report directly to him and forget the legitimate executive. Now is not the time to be talking convention when they have a country to prepare to take over, because the popularity of the NNP under the leadership of the old nastiness that the people are calling back for. Could you imagine that? He obviously did not get the message that hashtag Keith gone and he not coming back. This is the old nastiness's strategy to bypass the executive to get his way. He told the executive all constituencies accepted the lead and deputy lead, but only the town of St. George did not. He also threw his usual man-child tantrum in the hope of sending a strong message to the member for the town of St. George. Folks, my contact told me it is like the old nastiness has assumed the work of the General Secretary too, and operating on his own, because the duly elected General Secretary made statements that are not in alignment with the support for him. And the old nastiness realizes he is losing power among his rank and file within the structure of the National Nasty Party. Hello? The female, the old nastiness, accustomed referring to as an old thief, is reported to have learnt that her key supporters are supportive of the main leadership challenger and call them in one by one to scold them. But they still decide that they're not supporting the old nastiness And if they have to pretend, they will, to ensure that they can vote him out at the convention whenever it is called. Folks, a recent perceived ally of the old nastiness, in whom so many have expressed disappointment, has started to say that the old nastiness will climb on the back of the devil to get back in power because he called him looking for political advice. Could you imagine that? That is desperation. All the old nastinesses, hand-picked leads and deputy leads are washed up derelicts and include South St. George, Northwest and Southwest St. Andrew, St. Pat, East and West. Because of their perpetual ignorance and naivety, they all continue to believe in the lies and deceit of the wicked, selfish old nastiness. The old nastiness reassured them all on his executive, all of them, that NNP has never been so popular as now because the crime situation has finished the NDC. Delusional, isn't he? Would you be surprised if you learn that the old nastiness is reported to have actually said what people predicted he is likely to say in a recent discussion with a member of his anointed, that he wants them guys and them to continue to shoot up the place and make the country ungovernable? I will not be surprised because it fits the flawed character of that status-starved old nastiness. And some of you following that. And we have some people that are supposed to be at the same, similar educational level, similar maybe social status in the society, following that old nastiness. Folks, that is one of the reasons why I'm glad I have become reclusive. Because these are not people that are even worthy to be for you to tell hello to. Hi man, how you doing? And I can't be a hypocrite. It's sad, real sad. Folks, there's an African saying from a wise man. Of course, in Africa, they don't like wise people because wise people never evolve and graduate to become leaders. But this wise man, wise African, said, anyone who wants power wants to abuse us because love can get the same job done with compassion. The younger generation needs to be careful what they learn from the older generation, especially the expired, who continue to seek relevance and will do anything as compelled by their inherent wicked and selfish character traits while using the ignorant and naive among us. Folks, let's take a little break and we come back with some more fire. Yesterday, I understand somebody called me Edify. Isn't that interesting?
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and or affiliates of this program.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the country cold store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
If I take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island, best believe my list gon' be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters, friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and stand for, stand for, stand for.
Oh, iron in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. Going higher. 50 years we blessed before you rise. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 going up, going up, going up, 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 up.
As we smile, build up ourselves, put people together. Bang, 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 slowly up.
Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Yeah, sometimes you wonder, where are the religious leaders of our country? Within our country. I know Bible and them. Yet for all I could see all the nastiness going on in the society and prepared to call them out. But you see, they've all been absorbed, that whole nastiness and spell. They've all been absorbed. When they see a number of people, boy, and they get a mic in their mouth, it's just a whole load of, a truckload of rubbish they're talking because they get excited. They're an audience now. And just rubbish. But you see a lot of them, the parents used to bring them to church since they're small. So going to church became a nasty habit. That's all it is, a nasty habit. So they keep going. You know, it's amazing. It's amazing. I have a lot of people in Grenada who get up very, very early morning to pray and they're talking in tongues and all kind of noise, making a whole pile of noise. And when they're done, somebody else's husband come in and pick them up to take them out to dinner. Or gid. Or they park in their car by some friend who have a car like theirs. They take the friend car and they're gone. But you can't go to church more often than them. You know? I tell you, that is why this place mash up. Because that is what you have for people in the society. Two-timers. It's why I have to stay home and don't go nowhere. Because as I told you last week, when I go places, to begin with, I'm properly socialized. My mother tell me, they invite you to dinner, eat before you go. You know what you have here. What they have, you might be allergic to. It may not be enough. It may not taste good. Are we making any sense? So when you go, you can afford to behave well because your belly full already. You don't go with your belly in your hand. So you're showing all bad ways. And that is a red flag for me. That upsets me. And see these people driving the latest model, whatever it is. They have expensive clothes on. But it's pig in costume. Pig in costume. I don't want to be nowhere to be witnessing this kind of gutter nonsense. Oh no, that's why I stay home. That's why I accept no invitations. None whatsoever. Or they say, I don't know. Because these people have no class. No class whatsoever. It's sad. Real sad. You know? Folks, I just want to welcome those of you who just joining. And of course, to admonish you, beg you, share the live, share it. Share it, folks. It is instructive. But I remind you the impact of a wicked man as described in the Bible, that many of you love to quote and call yourself Christians. Proverbs 6, 12 to 19. Let me describe for you a worthless and wicked man. First, he's a constant liar. Isn't that the old nastiness? He signals his true intentions to his friends with his eyes and feet and fingers. Look at the old nastiness. He can't even relax. Foot always moving. Fingers, ooh, and eyes all over the place. Hello? He's always thinking of new schemes to swindle people. He stirs up trouble everywhere. Yikes. But he will be destroyed suddenly. Broken beyond healing. Any hope of healing. For there are 7 things God hates. Haughtiness. And you see that all the time. All in the church. Lying. Murdering. Not necessarily literally, but using power of position to try to see and always how they could maim you financially, or they could turn you into a bankrupt. That's a form of murder, folks. Financial murder. Ragging up people whose legitimate job it is to pay legitimate invoices. Telling them about their mother, their father, and the Holy Ghost. And threatening to fire them if they pay that so and so. Could you imagine that? And you want to tell me this idiot, this old nastiness must be given any chance again? Hell no. He do good. And he do good long. Plotting evil always. Isn't that the old nastiness? Eagerness to do wrong. Just as how we are eager to breathe and stay alive, so that sucker is eager to do wrong. A false witness. Always saying what people didn't say. Sowing discord among brothers. Not necessarily blood brothers, but among friends, people. Going to tell very close friends, 2 of whom I introduced him to years ago. Don't do no business with me. Could you imagine that? Sowing discord among brothers. That whole stinker. And you want that to be around the precincts of leadership? 25 years almost into the 21st century? Y'all, you're retarded. Y'all have to be a retarded set of people. This must strike a chord and ring a bell, as we can see these traits acted out by the old nastiness every day of the week. This devil must be stopped. Let me remind you of the other trait we are seeing that completes the articulation of the characterlessness of the old nastiness, who is nothing but a selfish person, who will stop at nothing to obtain his desire, especially when prodded and pushed by a fallen, nameless, faceless monster. It does not matter who dies and who cries. It does not matter who's in pain. A selfish person does not see anyone else but what they desire. They want it so badly that it does not matter who dies. Hello? And that is so darn familiar. They will do anything provided it ends with them achieving what they want to achieve. You see, unfortunately, too many of you members of the general public, because of your insistence on not paying attention, you can be gobbled up by this wicked, selfish, old nastiness. Too many of you fall into the category of ignorant and naive people. in that you show a lack of consciousness, a lack of experience, a lack of maturity, a lack of wisdom, and a lack of judgment. You speak the most, even though most, if not all, of which you say is worthless. A naive person is like a notebook that nothing has been written on. I just love that. That is what makes them dangerous, because they become what is suddenly written there. And if it is the old nastiness that is writing it among you, done for. You're dead. You see, the old nastiness in his dictatorial and manipulative manner, governed by his inherent evil and wicked tendencies, designed the place the way it is so that it could be ungovernable for a successor who is not prepared to display strongman tactics and traits to balance it off. This wicked and selfish con man entrenched his dunce goons in leading positions in public service and in the police so that he could be in charge long after he's gone, as long as he is still alive. You see the price we pay for being naive and ignorant as a people? We become aiders and abettors. Wickedness. Even though our intention may not be to harm, but we accommodate the harm and even death of others, not intending it to end this way. Regardless of our intention, naive and ignorant people who allow themselves to be used are just as dangerous as the wicked and selfish old nastiness. How do we change that in our midst? Look around and see the extent of the abject poverty and vulnerability of our people. People begging daily. And he complaining about things bad with people as if it just started bad. Who have things bad with people? The vote farm mash up. You don't expect people to go out begging? The treasury is closed. It's no longer a feeding trough. So what happened to them? Whose responsibility it is? All of them should line up in diamond. You that have them so, they should form a queue in diamond every day for you to feed them, because you that have them so. Look at the behavior, and you would see something greater screaming at you as it relates to the genesis of these people's state. Their lack of consciousness stirs them on. We who have sense have to paralyze that old nastiness through constant exposure for the con he is. I plan to spend, I told you that, the rest of my life, regardless as to how long it is. It could be 2 minutes, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 years, or 2 decades, providing all the ammunition to show all you blind mice the old nastiness you're dealing with. He's a gangster, no different from the common gangster that want to hold us hostage with crime today. There's a parallel between he and them. He just have a Rolex on his hand, that's all. There's no difference otherwise. He look like them too. How many young people nationwide has this old nastiness held hostage? And for how long? How many poor people has this old nastiness kept in a vulnerable state for all the years he was at the helm? You don't have to look too far for them. As the high level of begging exposes them daily. Anytime that old nastiness does a favor that some of you feel grateful for up to now was to achieve one thing, a step in the direction of satisfying his own perpetual thirst and hunger for power. All this time you feel he has been kind to you and he like you. He capable of liking anybody? He just ain't good, and he ain't good long. The old nastiness is not even capable of making a mistake to do anything good. So don't be fooled. Inadequate minds will see what he has done for them as kindness, but it is deeper. At the end of the day, he must benefit. And if he did not see a greater benefit in it for him, he would not do it. Trust me. You see, folks, the government needs to select 5, or probably 6, let's round it off to an even number. 6 saboteurs in the public service at the highest level. And if they exist within the police force too. And give them a fully calculated check in lieu of their entitlement and send them packing. I can bet any money when the rest see this, they will buck up to the point where they will all of a sudden find their capacity to deliver, and watch how competent they will become. You might say, wherever you are now, no, but when they do that, the rest might want theirs. No, they ain't gonna want theirs, because I'll tell you something. You see, you all can't process and you all can't analyze. Because let me tell you what is going to happen to these 5 or 6 saboteurs that would have gotten their check and gone. I am certain that none of these top people in the public service will be hired by anyone here in Grenada in the private sector. And if they are lucky to secure employment, they surely will be hired at their correct levels, far below where they are today, making mawet in the service. Because the only thing they're paid to do is to tell you why something must not be done. And they come to work 8 to 4 every day to tell you that. And they're happy to tell you that. While he doing nastiness, he pretending to offer assistance to the government, talking in style. That is why recently he say con instead of can. Because he really a con man. And if you listen to him carefully, you hear him indicting himself constantly. But you see, a lot among you don't pay attention. Because he's inherently a con. Folks, notarized copies of the original of the old nastiness is signed document agreeing to repay the money stole from the Grenada shipping agents in the 70s are around and about, you know. Some of you may ask what it means to be notarized. Well, anything notarized, any document notarized by a bona fide notary public is to be taken as an original and is certified to be a true reflection of the original and is admissible in any court of law as an original. That's what a notarized copy of any document. That's the power of it. It has the same strength as an original. You see, my inside contact told me as recently as yesterday that a setup pawn was strategically placed in St. George's to make a presentation to actively say the people are asking back for the old nastiness and the National Nasty Party. And when he was finished, only old nastiness applauded the presentation. What does that say? Trouble in the camp. They don't believe anybody that come with anything that favors the old nastiness. Trouble in the camp. You see, religion in Grenada have proved to be an abysmal failure in our current construct. Why is this so? Because it was easy for the ignorant and naive preachers, priests, bishops, and what have you, who pose on the altar of substanceless forgiveness and who don't know the difference between being judgmental based on suspicion and hearsay and being conclusive based on hard evidence. You see, these ignorant and naive religious leaders further encourage their congregants to follow suit, making way for the corrupt, wicked, and selfish political gangsters to continue to run amok while they tell their congregants to pray. You see, they're seeing the nice and hearing all his shenanigans steeped in slackness, commonness, and guile, and they refuse to call him out. What they don't realize is that prayers without works is useless. And so there's very little hope for the dunce, stupid, and foolish followers to become enlightened when they look up to and turn a blind eye to these enablers of wrong in our society. I said what I said. To hell with them. If you as a religious leader do not fall in that category, no need to take offense, because no offense is meant in your direction. You see, a man who is in touch with himself through and through is a man capable of being humble. We see an example of this daily in our current Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell. He knows who he is and is confidently being who he is. The old nastiness cannot come close, as he has never been humble. Even his escape from the jaws of the law by the pardon of good men in the 70s, when he embezzled the shipping agent's money and was caught, did not humble him. His character flaws were so strong that he proceeded unabated to the point where, in spite of all of his accomplishments in politics, all he can reap is vitriol and extremely negative sentiments from articulate, brave, and well-meaning people who are prepared to be sacrificial lambs to bring the truth about this old nastiness to all those who fall in the category of none so blind as he who would not see. Hello? The younger generation needs to be careful what they learn from the older generation, especially the expired, who continue to seek relevance and would do anything as compelled by their inherent wicked and selfish character traits while climbing on the backs of the ignorant and naive among us. Let's take our final break here and we'll come back with a little bit more fire and then conclude. Fine. Hashtag Keith gone and he not coming back. Let me see you put that in the comment section, folks. Hashtag Keith gone and he not coming back. Jump high, jump low. He do coming back. They sit down and be delusional. The Enlightenment has started to seep into the minds of our young people. And this modern young people, no old 80-year-old, almost 80-year-old con man is going to be allowed to hold them hostage anymore. No shoe polish, black shoe polish head, close to 80-year-old, stale, expired mind is going to be allowed to hold them back. No more hostage taking. And you see this poor and vulnerable talk? That has to go in the history books as done, finished, fini. Let's take a little break and we're coming right back with some more fire to conclude.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and or affiliates of this program.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
If I take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island, best believe my list gon' be 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters. See people meet in every corner. Together We stand for, we stand for, stand for.
Oh, iron in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. Going higher. 50 years we're blessed with motion fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, up. Going up, going up, going up, 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 up.
As we aspire, build up ourselves for people together. Bang, bang, bang.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, folks. So when we come back, of course, this will be the last segment here. So welcome back. And for those of you just joining, thank you for coming in. You know, we have a situation. People still can't understand that when people have their own social media pages, yes, it's a public page, but they will put a post, and if you read the post properly, you will realize the person, yes, welcomes discussion. But if it's an only positive vibes scenario, where you going with all your, yes, but this, that, where you going with that? Where you going with that? So, of course, someone comes under a post that I did recently, and I don't get on like people. I have to fight with them under the post. No. Delete the post. Go from here. Move from here. This is my page. Because this stupidness you're putting below there. You have a page. You obviously have a page. Go put that rubbish on your page. Don't come under people post. Y'all just mix up this Mark Zuckerberg stupidness Facebook friend. Y'all take that too seriously. You are not my friend. Oh God, get that straight now. You are a Facebook contact. That's all you are. So don't come under there as though me and you pitch marble in school. We sit down on the same school bench and you're just calling. No, go from here. And y'all don't seem to understand that. And folks, stop quarreling with them. Do like me. And then you go in your quote-unquote friend list and you find them and you juke them out. Go. You don't want all these undesirable people around you because all they're studying is mawet, dunceness. Section them. Set them straight. Pelt them out. That's what I do. Folks, I don't know if you realize, I deal with my Facebook, my social media pages myself. And I acknowledge people. So when I read something that's out of order, it's got to go. It's got to go. And you got to go too. Because my friend, I won't miss you. You understand me? I thought I should give you a little coaching as to how to handle them. Next, that's a favorite word of a prostitute, folks. So let us use that favorite word. Next. Keep it moving. So welcome back. Good day, folks. You are elevating on your spiritual journey when you find yourself in isolation. It becomes very hard to be around people because you become so sensitive to energies. You don't want to be outside all the time. You don't want to be in people's faces all the time. You have no interest in being popular. You don't want to be on the phone with people all the time, except the few whom you are totally connected with. You just want to be by yourself because you realize that when you stay by yourself and in isolation, That's when you experience the most elevation, because nobody is pulling on your energy. After all, in this world, there is a lot of weird energy going around. When you become elevated on your spiritual journey, you become a sponge for knowledge. And you therefore just want to be alone because you want to learn and read more. And you really only want to connect with people who are vibrating the same energy level as you. You are not going to make any room for situations that are not real, for situations that are not energizing you, because you know the path you are on and you like it. You see, when you are on this journey, you realize the fakeness in others easily. We live in a society today where people are just in a hurry to borrow success, to look like things are happening for them. And to prove a point, they borrow cars, they borrow clothes, they borrow money from others, and for many of them, with absolutely no intention to repay. They borrow every goddamn thing because of their obsession with visibility. They want to appear as if they're doing well. The God of our universe gives visibility, but not by manipulation. What many of you do not know is that success is not something you can go after. It is something you attract by who you become. Who are you becoming, folks? What is your intention for your life? You are in charge of your intention, you know, folks. You are in charge of your intention. What is it? Stop stealing tomorrow's bread today and being hungry during all of your tomorrows. Stop thieving from tomorrow's kitchen, in other words. You will perpetually be in a state of starvation. It is said that one cannot be humble if he or she does not know his or her power. If you do not know your power, you are not humble. You are just afraid and compliant. The only person who can be honestly humble is the person who knows their strength and knows their power and chooses it to serve. Truly serve and not thief and master others, but to empower and overpower. We should all accept kindness as one of the highest powers that we have in our life. When you have power and strength and you are kind on top of that, that's when it perplexes the world. You see, all the people we hear about who use their knowledge to hack banks and steal money from people's accounts, that is a grace that God gave them that they have perverted. All ordinary people that God blessed with brains to excel in their areas of studies, who turn out to be statisticians and even mathematicians, but instead pivoted into politics and end up as common thieves and crooks. That is a grace that God gave them that they have perverted. Trust me, folks, the same energy it takes to convert yourself into a thief is the same energy it takes to build honestly. It just happens to be about your mind and how you were socialized. Every one of us under the sun, there is something that God has placed in our hands. And among the many channels is where our prosperity and increase lie. You see, it would do all of us well to understand and appreciate that every time we are blessed to wake up in the morning, it's -1 day from our final. Always remember that. So when you are fighting and dragging for your ego, let wisdom stand in between to separate you, because there is no time for this. Remember what you should not lose. Lose whatever else, please, but do not lose your peace. Remember the wisdom of the dying man. Money will not do you much at that time, especially if you thief it. Money does not give fulfillment. It is God's will that everything obtained through foul means, to include money, must end up eventually in the hands of honest people. So as you continue to explore, there is a kind of desperation that many of you are giving life to that would end up haunting you. I am sure you will find out that it is an unnecessary desperation. The chiefest among the things that matter in this short life, folks, is peace. No matter what happens, refuse to let your peace go. At the end of your life, you will find that peace brought you no ridicule, but all that you needed, which you will be able to wave at the gate of success. Peace will escort you gallantly to a realm where only a few will get to, that place of fulfillment. You will stand there with joy, knowing that you lived your life effectively, serving your God-ordained purposes, all because of that peace. You see, a lot of us don't realize, dry season is always followed by wet season. And every wet season is followed by dry season. And it continues, the cycle continues. There are many people that we know who enjoy wet seasons, who never catered for the season they forgot to consciously prepare for. Even though unconsciously their actions pushed them towards earlier than they ever expected. Oh yes, social media news reels are replete with the rise and the fall of many of our favorite entertainers, sports personalities, talk show hosts, and other celebrities. Folks, there is something called transition that takes place in our lives, which we must be prepared for. We must all have a sense of when to leave the stage for fear that we start to work against ourselves in ways that no one can help us after that. Look at our political landscape, and you will understand what I mean when I tell you, never mind how haughty you can be this moment, using your position to beat people who are not supportive of you. And in such a short minute, everything can come tumbling down for you. We have that example here, where never mind how many chances the ignorant and naive gave that old nastiness, many of them got fed up of him and his same old nastiness. And by 9 p.m. on Thursday, 23rd June 2022, he got no more. He was no more, folks. Look at him today, walking around like a deflated balloon, lost his luster and pomposity, though still arrogant with absolutely nothing to support it. Hashtag Keith gone, and he not coming back. You see, the old frowsy style of leadership over a terribly extended period has our more mature population calling for similar behavior of our new leadership, which is respectful of the norms of order and structure, and with a youthful infusion is programmed to do things differently. Too many of our people, a little younger, my age and even older, feel how they know things to have been done is the only way. Well, the young people have a rude awakening for many of among you. They are doing things differently regardless of your reaction, and in many cases, in defiance of you and how you feel. I admire the nationwide sorrowful sentiments that dominate reactions to the recent isolated incident involving the escaped prisoners and all the damage that followed. We ought to be empathetic to the relatives and close friends of the two Americans who are to be presumed dead in the circumstance. In the same token, we who are into broadcast We need to be careful what we put out there to score narrow political points or to gain viewership at a time when we need to look at the larger picture. When we will put raw footage without a narrative to explain to viewers what they are looking at, this leaves viewers to put their own context to it. And of course, that's why we have Fox News and other affiliates in the US who are now able to use pieces of that same undesirable content to support their narrative on how unsafe Grenada is, as is experienced currently. Folks, I'm not accusing anyone of malice, but ignorance and naivety and just a lack of consciousness will be the death of a lot of us. Grenada is used to being in the news for the wrong reasons internationally. And the positive spin-off from that is that we are internationally known. We become known for a Marxist revolution which ended in blood and tears, with the mighty United States intervening militarily. We became known under the reign of the old nastiness as scandal-plagued, with news hitting the international wire that Grenada sells diplomatic passports to international crooks and conmen, and a slew of other undesirable activities that don't fit our people's character, but which became synonymous with us under the leadership of the old nastiness. Folks, all we have to do is to capitalize on whatever happens, to do a public relations blitz to change the narrative. Isn't that interesting? This isolated case with escaped prisoners wreaking havoc on 2 Americans, we need to be careful how we handle this, as state-sponsored responses to promote Grenada right now are not likely to be taken as intended. It would be useful to get yachties to speak of the anchorages and, of course, the general safety of our shores, to the point where several yachties have even converted mooring in Grenada to being resident here. It would be instructive to get expats with great on-island police experience to speak about them gallantly, so that other people external to us can feel us and understand how sore we must feel during these times of horror for our pure Grenada brand. Folks, what we need to understand and appreciate is that this is the sum total of our level of relaxation as a people, whose negligence allowed a characterless leader with no vision for law and order and structure for operating within established norms to lead our nation's affairs for so goddamn long. We are seeing that no succession planning was forthcoming in all of our state bodies, public service as well as police. Poor facilities within which to operate and function. No proper training, absolutely no leadership. Are you surprised that the old nastiness ran in front to see if he could control the narrative before we can catch up to put things in the right perspective and hold him totally responsible? I tell you, that's a con man. We cannot allow this experience to immobilize us, though. We also cannot allow ourselves to act as if we are operating on US legal system, which is based on civil law, dominated by rights and compromise issues of serious investigation, when we operate on common law principles, where what obtains in the US is a no down here. I am sure that with maturity, we will come to understand that the traditional way of how we addressed issues in the past, by way of national addresses steeped in old talk and fluff, by Grenada's chief conman of the past is over. Those days are done. We have a new sheriff in town, and based on how he climbed the ladder of success honestly to the pinnacle of his legal profession, having pivoted to politics, what should you expect? He would do so with a completely new approach. And we need to get used to it. The con man is gone. A new sheriff is in town. Get used to the new method. The new sheriff is not fitting into the mold of the old con man. No. Interestingly, when the old nastiness was in office, everybody knew how things were done, always with his knowledge and to his dictatorial fancy. All the various people who were appointed to serve, whether on contract or otherwise, knew that they must prioritize him and his gangsters. Now the old nastiness is out and the new sheriff is in town. They ought to be lucky they still have their jobs, but they want to treat the current government ministers with no priority. And when they are pulled up on it, they find it necessary to relate same to the cat for scandalization. How brave could you be and still have your job? Somebody got to be stupid around here. And I add, oh, Gid. You see, you are not speaking because you are afraid of the old nastiness when he was around, the priests of power, that is. For fear that you lose your job. Now that you are empowered to do your goddamn work, you find yourself so beholden to the old nastiness that you take instructions from him still while serving a new administration. And we who know something is wrong with that must not speak up and out about it. Joke among your making, I will speak about it till the cows come home. And all who speak about it, I encourage you to speak about it, because they couldn't do those things when the old nastiness was in charge, and we should not tolerate what they do. Folks, as I close here today, I want to remind you, you religious junkies, you people who parents bring you to church and you pick up that nasty habit and you still go in, but you have no actions to prove that you're a Christian after all. You junkies in our midst, based on how the old nastiness operates and manages to have captured most of the local religious leaders in his fly trap. There's a fly trap he set you, thus muting them completely. There are chapters and verses of the Bible that you love to quote and quote under the guise of being Christians that show you up and also show you just who the old nastiness is. I shared a couple today. That is why lots of you are seen to be eating the bread the devil need in your natural lives, not being able to see your way because you're serving two masters. You cannot serve the devil and God at the same time. You see why the younger generation needs to be careful what they learn from the older generation? A lot of you just ain't good. And that is as frank as I'm prepared to drop it. I am in, I am out, and I am gone. Thanks for joining today again. Continue to share. See you next week, Saturday. Again, it will have to be Saturday again, simply because something has come up. At the same time, 6 o'clock. God willing, for more extraordinary programming. So until then, I ask you to stay safe, stay well, remain vigilant and lifted. Just a reminder, the following week, which is Sunday the 17th of March, we would be back to regular Sunday schedule. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Just type my name, Edward or Eddie Frederick. Subscribe, like, and share, and be prepared to receive your mental multivitamins as straight as I deliver them. May 2024 continue to be a year of consciousness, so that you no longer will become or judged and used because of your ignorance and naivety, and you will reject the selfish and the stupid, namely the old nastiness. Hashtag Keith gone and he not coming back. Toodaloo, folks. Have a wonderful Sunday. Enjoy yourselves. Have a productive week ahead. God's blessings.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This has been Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy. For too long now, our generally perceived poorly educated electorate have fallen victim to the cheap and inferior propaganda of those seeking to hold others captive under the guise of democracy. Gladly, the CDGG uses edification to help to actively pursue a sustainable approach to reorient people towards the importance of electing and selecting people of good character to public life. Through edification, we will highlight the importance of education appropriate to our development, proper healthcare and facilities as our right, respect for law and order, not mention upgrading our people's thinking so they could become qualified participants in the democratic process to their advantage. After all, Grenada's national constitution makes allowances for the ideal of free men to enjoy freedom from fear and want, which can be best achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone may enjoy his economic, social and political, civil and cultural rights.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the country cold store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for 40 years.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. Hiring the right people with the right attitude and mindset is where to start. Even if you did not get it right through your current hiring methods, we can help develop the right mindset for your current employees. If you think training is expensive, try not training, and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island. Best believe my list gon' be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters. Friendly people meet every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for. Stand for.
Iron in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. Going higher. 50 years we're blessed with fortune fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 going up, going up, 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 higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up successful people together. Bang, bang, bang. Slowly up.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting